After losing over 40 pounds naturally and working with women as a licensed therapist for more than 10 years, I've learned something that most transformation plans never address. The reason you keep failing isn't discipline. It's because the plan you're following wasn't designed for your life, your schedule, your responsibilities, your recovery capacity, or your stress load. So I decided to create a 90-day transformation plan specifically for women over 30, with no meal plans you'll quit in a week, no workouts that leave you wrecked, and no perfection-obsessed rules that collapse the moment life gets messy. And here's the best part. I decided to create commitment tiers. So whether you can work out 3 days a week or up to 6 days a week, you will still see results. So let's talk about the 3 pillars of this. So strength training, nutrition, and mindset. So we're going to start with strength training because it just feels like the most practical place to start. And I feel like a lot of times this is where women's plans will fall apart. Tier 1, I'm calling the minimum effective dose. So this is 3 days per week. And yes, 3 days per week is enough for full body transformation. So what this is going to look like for you is 3 full body strength workouts, compound lifts like squats, deadlift, presses, and rows. So like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then rest days include walking, stretching, or yoga. This is right for moms who are super busy, people with demanding careers, beginners, or anyone that is just rebuilding consistency. Because my little therapy truth here is that honestly, most women fail because they pick a plan that was meant for a different life. 3 days a week wins because you can actually sustain it. So tier number 2 is what we'll call the optimal results. And this is 4 to 5 days per week. This is kind of the sweet spot for muscle building and fat loss changes. So this is going to look like 4 strength sessions. So upper, lower, or a full body split of some kind with that one optional short cardio or HIIT day. And then this is going to look like, maybe Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and then with that cardio on Saturday. But this is really more for the women who want faster progress, but still need a bit more flexibility. So tier 3 is what I would call maximum transformation. And this is going to bump you up to 6 days per week. And this is effective, but only if your lifestyle supports it. So this is going to be 5 strength training sessions a week. So it might be push-pull legs or upper lower full with that one cardio or active recovery day. But this is really, in my opinion, more for those more experienced lifters who already have pretty solid sleep and manageable stress and some pretty good recovery habits already. Because it's important to remember that recovery limitations, especially for 30 plus, in my opinion, at least, are less about like hormone issues. Maybe there are some, but to me, it's more of a combination of stress, sleep, work, and responsibility. So more volume isn't necessarily better. It's just important that you make sure you listen to your body. So now I want to go through which YouTube workouts that you might want to follow. And I actually have a whole video on how to choose like workout programs on YouTube. So I will link that in a card for you as well. But I'm just going to give you a list of a couple of different trainers that you might like. And I want you to pick one program and follow it for 90 days because consistency beats variety. So option 1 is, of course, my personal favorite, Caroline Girvan, for strength focus because she just has great workouts. It's great for muscle building and progression and for definition. I really like all of her epic programs, especially if you want to include that cardio component. But if you don't want the cardio component, iron is a great start for a lot of folks. But I'll link my whole playlist again for you on all of her programs. I ranked them based on like difficulty level, basically, and I broke them all down in a couple different videos. So that video will be linked for you in case you want to see that and kind of give you some guidance on which program might be most appropriate for you. Because that could be it is a whole separate video. So then option 2, I put Sydney Cummings just because I feel like she has great variety and coaching. She really is super motivational and she has a really nice structure. I really enjoyed doing Summertime Fine a couple of years ago. I think that would be a great one for folks, but she also does have like current monthly plans that are going or things like those, monthly programs that have already been produced like Ignite or Accelerate. And then for option 3, my girl Devin over at Ariana Active, I just think she has a great library of lots of different stuff. And I feel like it's great if you're low on time because she does offer some different variety options in terms of time commitment. I talked to her specifically and I asked her because I told her she's going to be in this video. And she said that she thought for a beginner, Active 2.0 is great sort of for those like fundamentals, but that Sparked would be great for intermediates. And then more advanced folks, she suggested Ignite because it has a more complexity in the movement patterns compared to some of the other programs. All right, let's talk nutrition. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. You do have to be in a calorie deficit to lose fat. But the way you create the deficit can make all the difference between sustainable transformation and another failed diet. So I'm going to give you 2 ways to approach the nutrition, and then you're going to pick the one that best fits both your personality and also your lifestyle. So path 1 is the tracking approach. This is for my data-driven people, okay? If you like structure, if you like data, if you like the clarity, then this approach is going to give you the most precise without necessarily locking you into rigid numbers, okay? So first, you're going to determine your calorie target using a percent deficit. So instead of just giving you a random number like 1,200, 1,500, 1,600, I'm going to give you a percentage-based approach. So we're going to use your real TDEE, and then you're going to subtract percentage-based deficit. So you're going to choose your deficit based on your training tier. So if you are those tier 1 folks, those 3 days a week folks, you're going to choose a deficit that's 10 to 15%. If you're those tier 2 folks, you're going to do a 15 to 20% deficit, or at least attempt. And tier 3, you're going to do a 10 to 15%. And no, you did not mishear that. The tiered deficit in 3 is smaller than in tier 2 because more training equals more full. You're going to search for a TDE calculator, and that's going to give you your daily maintenance calories. You're going to multiply that by your chosen deficit range. So for example, if your TDE is 2,000 calories, you got 15% deficit, which is going to be 1,700, and then a 10% deficit, which is going to be 1,800. So this gives you a range, not a rule, and your body can fluctuate within that range from day to day. And then step 2 is you're going to set up your macro percentages. You don't necessarily need exact grams. I personally like grams, but you do kind of want to think about a distribution, and this will give you a more flexible range. So I would say when you're thinking about protein, 30 to 35% protein, carbs, 30 to 40%, fats, 25 to 35. And why this works is because it gives you a bit more flexibility for your own personal preferences. And, that way it automatically adjusts to your body size, because if you're like me and you don't make 5 feet tall, then it's going to look different for how much protein you need than somebody who's, almost 6 feet tall, right? So, or maybe you're a higher carbs girl because you run more, whatever the case may be. But the protein still stays high though, because we want to protect the muscle and stay full. And then step 3 is I want you to track for at least 30 days, and then you can loosen it up. You're not signing up to track for the rest of your life. You're not signing up for long-term food logging. You're learning a skill. And this skill is really important because for the first 30 days, this will help you track consistently, to help you learn your portion sizes, to see where your calories are coming from, to help you adjust, and stay within that 30 to 35% range and understand your eating patterns. Do you like larger meals? Do you like smaller, more frequent meals? And if it does start to feel obsessive, then I want you to switch to the path 2 that I'm going to discuss here in a minute, because there isn't any shame in choosing your mental health over, tracking your calories. And it is important that if your tracking is increasing your anxiety triggers or like old food dieting behavior, truthfully, if that's the case, you probably need to consult a registered dietitian or work with someone personally rather than watching online, because quite frankly, it's just too important. So path 2 is the plate method, and this is for my more intuitive eaters. And again, you can switch to this after 30 days. So if the tracking makes you anxious or rigid or obsessive, then this works well for fat loss as well without all the numbers. But every meal should look kind of like this. So this would be like half a plate of non-starchy vegetables, a quarter plate of lean protein, about a palm size, about to a fist. You want about a fist size or a fourth plate of complex carbs, and then about a thumb size of healthy fats. And then for snacks, you want to think about choosing protein-based options, things like Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, maybe hard-boiled eggs, protein shakes, beef jerky, things like that. So just some general guidelines. You want to think about having like 3 meals and then like 1 to 2 snacks. And you want to think about stopping at about 80% full rather than getting to that full, like 100% fuel. Full, not fuel. And you want to drink, a couple of glasses, a couple of these water a day. It very much depends on your body weight, how much you need. But this method sort of gradually creates a gentle deficit without you feeling like you need to obsessively count or track. So which method should you choose? If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think your best path is to track first for the first 30 days, not to obsess, but to learn and build awareness. And then after that, switch to the second method. That way you kind of get the best of both worlds. And once you've learned the stuff from 30 days, then moving forward, you have a different system. But maybe you feel like you need more than 30 days of tracking to kind of nail that. And that's okay too. So you kind of have to do this based on your personality, your structure and your flexibility, your ability to have awareness without obsessing, and also just from like a burnout standpoint. So because you're trying to build a skill here. You're not trying to like follow a bunch of rules. You're trying to build a skill. So pillar 3 is mindset and habits. And this is where I'm going to put my little therapist hat on. Okay. But I'm not your licensed therapist. I am a licensed therapist. So this is not intended to be in place of therapy in any way. But you don't need more motivation. You need some mental shifts that support your consistency. So let's talk through some of those. Shift number 1 is progress over perfection. Think about your progress rather than being perfect all the time. If you miss a day or if you overeat, you just pick right back up where you left off. You don't need to feel bad about it. You just need to get right back with the habit. No punishment, no spirals, please. Okay. Shift number 2 is identity over outcomes. Remind yourself that I'm someone who strength trains, or I'm someone who fuels my body well, or I follow through. Identity creates behavior, not the other way around. And shift 3 is self-compassion over self-criticism. And I know this can be really hard, but you can't bully yourself into consistency, but you can coach yourself into it. So section 3 really is just the 90-day breakdown. So in phase 1, this is days 1 to 30. This is your foundation. And you're going to focus on habits over aesthetic. You might notice some strength jumps relatively quickly, and you can expect some mental resistance on yourself by weeks 3 to 4. Success strategy is showing up consistently, not perfectly. So just show up, put in some numbers. In phase 2, which is 31 to 60, this is where you're going to start to build some momentum. You might start to notice some visible changes in your body, and you also might notice some strength changes. This is kind of where the messy middle tests your patience, and the strategy here really is about trusting the process when the motivation dips and just keep going through those habits that you've been building from day 1. And phase 3, this is 61 to 90 days, and this is where we call like the results phase, right? Your confidence is going to start to rise. You might start to see some of that definition, and your habits are going to start to solidify a bit more. And the strategy here really is about finishing strong and preparing for day 91 and on. Right? So how to track your progress beyond the scale? Because the scale is just one data point, and while it can be a really useful data point, it's not the only thing. So I want to encourage you to track with progress photos, front, back, side, all in the same lighting every 30 days. You're going to measure your waist, your hips, your thighs, your arms every 30 days. For strength, you're going to see how much your weight you're lifting, and you want to try to increase your weight every 2 to 3 weeks. Energy levels, how do you feel each and every day from day to day? How are your clothes fitting? Because this is often the first thing that you will notice change. How's your sleep quality? Are you sleeping better? Are you sleeping worse? How's your mood? Are you less anxious, less stressed? Because all of these matter even more than the number on the scale. So this plan is perfect for women over 30 who are tired of extreme approaches that don't work for your body anymore. They want sustainable results, not quick fixes, can commit to at least 3 days per week of strength training, and are ready to prioritize themselves, not in a selfish way, but in a you can't pour from an empty cup kind of way. You want to build muscle, get stronger, and feel confident in your body, and you're willing to be patient and trust the process. This plan is not for you if you want dramatic results in 30 days, because that's not realistic or sustainable. If you're not willing to strength train, cardio alone isn't going to give you these results, and that's okay. You just need to remember and set your expectation and be honest with yourself. If you're not ready, it is A-okay. But when you are ready, this plan will be here for you. So here's what you're going to do next. First, you're going to pick your tier. Be honest with yourself. What can you actually commit to? And you're going to write that down. Next, you're going to pick your trainer, whether that be Caroline, Sydney, Heather Robertson, whomever. Pick one and stick with that. I'm going to link some channels below in those videos that I mentioned. Third, you're going to decide your nutrition approach. Are you going to be doing the tracking method or the plate method? You can always switch. You just need to pick one to start with. And then fourth, you're going to take your day 1 progress photos and measurements today. I don't care if you're starting tomorrow or next week. I want you to document right now, all the way around, what you look like in the same spot, in the same outfit. So in 90 days, once you've done this, you can really see what you're working with. And finally, I want to know from you in a comment, what tier do you plan to start with? I want to hear from you, and I want your commitment in a comment. So let's go get stronger in 2026. And until next time, bye guys.